Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome to our Working Together series. We're just waiting on Rabbi Karmi Ingber to show up, and always a joy to be with our friends down in Houston with Rod Bryant from Netiv. They're down there in 110-degree weather, so that's
106, yeah. Yeah.
106 in Houston right now.
Yes.
Wow, that's hot.
Yes.
We've
Yeah,
reached
it's
here in Canada 100 degrees about 3 weeks ago here, and for us that's hot.
oh,
But
that's really hot.
we've been socked in with wildfires, though, and I
Oh
mean
yeah.
toxic air quality for the last few weeks. We had a lot of evacuations, and about 90 homes burned down in the town next to me, and yeah, it's just treacherous.
Yeah,
But
the tech between the Texas-Louisiana border, there's wildfires, and now we have them in East Texas now with thousands of acres that are burnt. Towns in Louisiana, one town completely evacuated last week, forced evacuation because of the fire. But
wow, it
thank
it
God we
goes
haven't had any deaths or anything because
from
of
the
it.
border of Washington State. It goes all the way up into the Northwest Territories,
Yeah.
Yellowknife and the Northwest Territories, which is right on parallel with Alaska. It is burnt. They've had total evacuation out of there. They all came
Oh,
down south here, but
well, it's very difficult just with the heat itself, but it's life. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to live in this country that we live in. I'm grateful the students that we have here. It's awesome. Everybody is so awesome. And I just want to remind everybody, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go and subscribe. This will help our algorithm. It'll help other people be able to see our videos. And when you watch or see our videos on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, make sure you like and share if you have an account there. A lot of people don't have accounts that are my age or older, but a
so
lot of younger
you were
folks do
saying you
have
got
it.
over 12,000 subscribers now on YouTube. That's great
Yeah,
to hear.
yeah, 12,700 and something. So we're really for
Keep
600 something. So
growing,
we're
yeah.
very happy.
That's
Yeah,
exciting news. Well, I see the rabbis jumped right
yeah.
in, so let's say hello to Rabbi Ingber and turn the class over to him. And Rabbi, we're going to turn it over to you, sir. Oh, you're on mute.
Recording in progress.
You're still muted.
Recording stopped.
That's strange. Mute. There we go.
How am I now?
Awesome.
Recording in progress.
Okay, good to see everybody. All right, so I figured today I wanted to do a little open discussion, hear from everybody. So many things going on. The world will be judged in 2 weeks from now. I hope we're all ready. So it's a very powerful time. It's the month of Elul as we're preparing for Rosh Hashanah, the Day of Judgment. Very, very, powerful time. I mean, there's discussions when the Mashiach will come. It depends on how it happens, if we merit it or don't merit it, but it's one of the sides is going to be during this time. We even read the reading of the story of the war at the end of time during Sukkot, because we know that we have a tradition that that's when certain wars, the end of time, will happen. A lot of very, very powerful things happening on individual levels for all of our lives, global levels. We talk about the politics sometimes, and I always want you to remember the politics are not everything has an internal system and an external system. The internal system is the spiritual rules by which God directs the world where it has to go. He's bringing the world to completion. And everyone within the system has to do their role. When they do their role, so then God willing, the system works, that we get it we get closer to our destination through a more easier system because we have merited it, because the idea is to earn it. And if we don't, then the challenges that come to us are also to get us to a state of perfection. So the world is moving with its internal mechanism. And therefore, the politics are not the key, but they are the symptoms. And if you look at the politics of the world right now, it's unbelievable. So we can look at it from the symptoms of what we have to do internally, the work of preparation, the work of getting ourselves as being good, righteous people, the world of the work of the world, and what this means, that we're going through. So I want to open up today to questions and let people just please feel free to ask things that they could be about any of those things. It could be about anything in spiritual dimension, spiritual growth, different things about the world of structure, the time that we're in leading up to Rosh Hashanah, or in the state of the world that we're in, which is truly I don't know. I've never seen this in my lifetime before, the state of the certainly of America, but the world in general. So if you want to talk about that, I'm open. So I want to hear questions, ideas, comments, and we will take it from there. So let's open it up to anyone who has anything that they want to clarify.
I'll start off. I said that this morning, and also speaking to Dan, I think, during this time of Elul and repentance, I just wish that we could get the message to the world that if they want to drastically improve the world that we live in, that people should look at themselves and change themselves for the better. I mean, that's not asking much, but there's a lot of people that are so entombed in their klipot. I don't know if you could ever reach these people. I don't know.
I don't know either. You have to remember the famous statement from the Kotzker Rebbe. He was a rabbi who said when he was young, he planned to change the world. And then when he got older, he said, I'll change my country. And then when he got older, I'll change my city. And then I got older, I said, I'll change my town. And then I go, I'll change my family. I'll change myself. So the reality is that and this is something very important. The point that you bring up, Rod, is really an important issue because I have dealt mostly in Jewish outreach for the past 30 years, and I've extended it to outreach to everyone in the world. But there's an important message to understand about outreach and about all of these things. And the message is that you don't run the world. I don't run the world. God runs the world. And therefore, what happens is you got to make your effort. It's amazing. I've seen in my life where situations that I've been in and others where how did it work that this person actually asked the question, met the rabbi, met this person, had this whole cascade of events? How did that happen? And it is that God looks at every person and sees their heart. And that's what we're going to see the day of judgment. Every single person is looked at. Who you are, what is in your heart. And somebody that wants to know will end up getting to the right place. But the rule is that to try to push things on someone else that they're not open to hear, it's a fruitless effort because they can't hear it. And second of all, it's not what you have to worry about because the reality is I think God runs the show. And if we're doing what we're doing, but again, the difference is I just want to explain because you're saying a very good point here, because the first person in the world who really was the outreach expert was Abraham. Mm-hmm. Abraham was the person who said, wait a minute, this is not about me. I have to share this idea with the whole world. And that was Abraham's revolution. And it was true. So it's a little bit of a contradiction what I'm saying, because on one hand, I'm saying that it's up to God. On one hand, I'm saying, well, Abraham felt that he had to do it. It's not a contradiction. Why? You must feel that you want to do it. It says, this is a very amazing thing. It says in the Shema, it says to love God. That's a very strange commandment. How do you command an emotion?
Right.
How do you do that? So there's a lot of different answers to this. One answer is that, yes, if you actually meditate on the proper things, if you look at the beauty of the world, if you hear some wisdom of Torah, if you look at the awesomeness, you will be filled with love of God. So you got to put the external aspects that will inspire the emotion. That's one approach. There's another approach, which is that if you love someone, you will make them beloved to others. There's another famous idea I like saying from Shlomo Carlebach. Shlomo Carlebach used to say, there was an amazing situation where if you look in the Torah's portion, after Abraham has the circumcision, then God appears to Abraham. And then the three Arabs come, which Abraham does not know they're angels, thinks they're Arabs, and he invites them in. And if you read the text properly, understand that really what he did was he was in the middle of a prophetic experience where he actually left the prophetic experience to help three travelers, three nomadic Arabs. It's unbelievable. It's wild. He's in the highest state of experience of God, and he says, okay, I got to do this now. It's incomprehensible. So Shlomo Carlebach used to give an idea, and I'll say it the way I always say it. Like a lot of times you have friends, and you like your friends. The ultimate test of how much you like your friends, like their kids or not. Because like you can look at kids, and sometimes they're snotty and they're whiny, but they're your kids. Like you feel that, no, they're very cute. Also, I think they're that cute. But what do you love? If you love somebody, you don't only love them, you love what they love. So when you love someone, you love what they love. This guy loves his kids, and I love him. I see the beauty in his kids. Who does God love? God loves people. So Abraham knew he was doing the right thing because God wanted him not to focus on his own spiritual experience, but rather to help other people because God created people and loves people and wants people to get the good that he wants to give them. So you have to want it. The problem is when we think we control it. That's the problem. So we want to share with everybody. We're open to share with everybody. But God's going to bring the world to completion one way or another, and everyone who's had a good thought, everyone who started a process and has opened their heart a little bit, they might hear this recording. And they might say, hey, what the heck's going on? How did I get here?
God willing, that's what we're doing. Right.
What's that?
That's why we're doing. God willing. Yes, you're right, but that's why we're doing this.
That's right.
Because it would be much easier for us just to meet and have our class and not load things up and not send them to people.
That's right. 100%. It's a beautiful thing. Just don't be worried about the result. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you could do is do that.
No, it's always like that. It's always like that because really a person is not judged on what they do in the end. It's what they tried to do and made the effort to do. But like sometimes God might not want that for reasons you don't know.
Right.
So you might try to do something. Now again, be careful because sometimes people don't really try and they say it didn't work, so they really didn't try. So you got to really make your effort. But if you really make your effort, so then like I'm not, even though I talk to you about the world situation and I get excited about it, but I'm not worried. I'm not worried.
No.
It's all going beautifully. It's all going according to plan.
Right.
Now again, I don't like the fact that people are going in this harsh way and they're really seeing the world upside down and they're causing themselves suffering and darkening the experience of the world. But I still know we're going to get there. So I'm going to make.
I guess the thing that makes a difference between us and them, whatever that is, Gog and Magog type ideal, is that there are those who have complete trust in Hashem. They do and try to please him in their life. They try to be good people. There are even people that don't even know Hashem, who are in this life that are good people, et cetera, God's got it worked out. And we feel that. There is another part of society that's consumed with the destruction, the chaos, the racism, the politics, the whatever, and they're consumed by it. I feel sorry for them. They really are. I have personal friends that to have a conversation with them, it's painful. They're in they're troubled. Troubled about the situation.
Yeah, it's a unique situation right now where people have been they've been they have I imagine you all heard that the country song that came out
Oh yeah.
the guy's Oliver Anthony, so he hit a chord. He hit a chord in America, which was like, whoa, that was fascinating that you just hit this chord where people many people are feeling. And I think that it's like I remember one time I was counseling a couple in my synagogue, and I told the guy, I said, you need to go on a news fast. 10 days,
I agree.
10 days, no news. And all of a sudden the guy felt that, when I lived in Israel for 20 years before I went to America, I never heard the news. I didn't know anything. I was in the 90s. There was apparently a show called Seinfeld. I didn't even know about it. Like I didn't know what was going on. I was like, okay, I'm great. I'm in a world of holiness. I don't have to hear your craziness and none of that. So reality is that but I do think, by the way, that I don't think that that's necessarily what you all should be doing. I think that especially in Noahide has to really sort of, be involved in this world very much to make sure that his nation and is going in a direction that they're part of the process, because really it's really, like I say, like I told you before about the whole idea of Gog and Magog, this war and the end of history. It's crazy when you understand that, according to the Talmud, that they come after the Messiah reveals himself.
Mm-hmm.
That means that there are people that have so much hatred towards truth that when it's in their face, they get. Now, that person, unfortunately, there's no one to talk to, and you need to be careful.
No, you're right.
You need to be careful.
That's right.
To make sure you don't go into a place where you can endanger yourself for no reason, because you're not going to pull them out of it. You won't.
Well, the interesting thing, and Tar's got his hand up. The interesting thing is that, and you're right, we do as Noahides need to be engaged in what our society is doing. But for sure, we cannot be so consumed with that we lose our trust in Hashem. I mean, it's really important we keep
100%. And not only that, you have to understand, like, you can be a what do you say called? They said called when the Vietnam, they called it something objector, a conscientious objector.
A conscientious objector, right?
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Listen, I do not support these ideas. I keep the 7 laws of Noah. I want everything in my power to be able to create a system that will be a righteous country. I'm outnumbered now, and I can't. It's funny because I was thinking, I don't know. This is a political. I'll target you once. This is a political thing. I was thinking, like, why, they're making this whole thing about, when the Supreme Court in terms of abortion, and now the Biden administration is pushing back and they want to enforce it. It's like, in a certain sense, to make it a state's decision would make people's lives so much easier, because it's hard for a person who wants to be a righteous Noachite to pick up and leave a country.
Right.
Pick up and leave a state, you could do. It's not so hard. You could say, listen, this state is not the mentality that I want to support. And that's really, and that was really with this song, which was so fascinating, because what they've done right now is they've sort of made it that people who are politically right or in a southern state are racist, white supremacists, and all these things, and so what's happened is that people are being pushed down for their views and the views that are much more in line with the seven Noachide laws on the
Right.
whole. Obviously, there are people who are, but the point is that like you could see differences in the country, and this was really the whole. I mean, this really is the root of the Civil War: is the states' rights versus the federal government, which the federal has certainly had greater overreach right now. And the problem is that you can't. How do you function in a country? And I don't know the answers to America. Whoever is going to win an election now in America, it's not going to be 90-10. 51% to 49%, but half the people don't agree. Half
Right.
the country have completely different views of the world. And that's a
they
big
are
issue right
friends and
now.
family members.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
And that's why really a state's approach might be a smarter thing for like these type of laws like abortion, because okay, we're a person we believe in, and you want to have your ideas. I can't force you, but I can leave your state. I don't have to be party to. That would make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Tar, you had your hand up.
A couple of things have been said here to kind of tickle my thoughts. And at the beginning, you were saying something about the test that we're going to be going through, and we've been talking about faith. What I'm seeing in my life and the people around me, I can think of three things right now that I need to get out that I'm falling way short on, but I've improved a lot, and so much of it has been from listening to good rabbis, studying the Torah, having good rabbis, the select rabbis I listen to, the giving, and just believing in Hashem. And a lot of those tests and things that I see other people going through, I'm not experienced very many of them. There's still some need to be put on me because I still have a lot of changing to do, but still. And I see the people who do not believe in a supreme being that believes in a creator of the world, and it seems like they're living in total chaos all the time. They have no one to believe in, no faith in anybody. And then you got the people that are playing religion. I don't want to call any names or whatever. They're having their share of problems. But even in other faiths besides just Judaism, you find the people that truly believe in a higher power and they believe in their faith, what they've been taught, what they've been brought up as, they seem to be experience fewer problems too. Even though they're not worshiping Hashem the way we do, the way we think it should be done, they're doing it with all their might and all their heart. And and he sees that they're trying, and I see them not having the problems that the total non-believers and stuff are having, the people out there playing religion.
Right. All right, Tar, it's a good point. Let's talk about it a second, because this really is what the so-called pseudo-intellectuals did when they common statements like religion is the opium of the masses. Well, one thing is, a person can say I believe and can have a very childish understanding of God. Many religions have a very childish understanding. So the person who thinks he's more intellectually keen and is a smarter guy, he looks at him like an idiot. But the reality is one thing to start with, is that someone who doesn't believe in God, by definition, will be in chaos because his belief is chaos. It's a chaotic belief. The idea of a random world is exactly that. I don't really understand how a person who believes that life is random, how they function, because their morality is not real. Meaning is there's no meaning in anything. So there's no meaning. So the whole world, just like the idea that the world came to them in this Darwinian modern atheistic view, is that it's all random. Life is random. People are random. Relationships are random. Everything's random. Everything is meaningless. This is a very, very dangerous thing. I explained to you once. This was the approach of Amalek. This was it's fascinating. This has become the main philosophy of the world. But this was the enemy, the antithesis of the Jew was this we called it Amalek. Amalek's view was everything is random. Amalek was even philosophically was even able to say, well, maybe there is a God. We don't care. He's not involved. Everything's random. But be that as it may, what happens is so people who believe that take God out of the equation, it's you can't. I said to you before, there's no morality even. Why do this? They have no answer. The only answer is that it's this thing, social contract. Don't go and steal from the other guy because you don't want him to steal from you. But there's no absolute objective morality if you don't believe in a being that is beyond your system. And once you come to social contract and you say, well, there is no absolute morality, it's just whatever people decide, and it's a good social contract, you'll come with the Nazis who will say, well, we don't believe in that because we think we could steal and kill and we're stronger, we could do it. So a person doesn't believe in God, that is, that's obviously one of the 7 mitzvahs, not to believe in idolatry, which means you believe in one God, you believe in an omnipotent being. Because without that, there is no foundation to anything. There's no foundation to anything. Your kindness is not kindness. The reason why you do kindness is because you want people to like you, you're people please, or whatever the thing is. So you're right, Tara. The people who take God out of the equation. And by the way, and that's what I've said to you many, many times. That's really my whole piece about the business, about the trans and this whole thing. I believe the reason why it's an important issue for them is because I do believe it's a war on God. It's a war on the idea that God creates things in a certain way, and I function within the parameters that God has created. The idea of the new Disney World is that you could make up and be whatever you want to be. You could think you're this, you could identify, because there is no reality anymore. Once there's no God, there's no reality. It's whatever you want to make up. That's their world. So you're right. These people are unfortunately, Rahmanis, are in bad situations, and and they're pushing on other people too. Yeah, good point, Tar. Beautiful. Okay, what else we got? Could be on anything. Feel free, Stephen. You're muted. You're muted. You got to unmute. Stephen, you're yeah, I got you. Good. Okay.
Hello, good evening.
Hey.
Mashiach ben Yosef, when he comes onto the scene, is part of his kind of remit to dismantle the Dome of the Rock and sort of do away with the Holy Sepulchre and sort of, get rid of all idolatry in the land. That's the first question. But the second question I just wanted to add was, are you aware of the 156 characteristics or where they can be found of Mashiach ben Yosef?
Tell me, where are you quoting from? I see you're quoting from some book. What is the source you're using there?
This is my new edition. This here.
The Secret Doctrine of the Vilagan. Okay. All right. So that is probably it's a translation or a loose translation of the book Kol HaTorah, the sounds of the turtle dove. Is that what that is?
I think it's affiliated through that.
So.
There are 156 characteristics of Mashiach ben Yosef.
Right. That's the numerical value. Yeah. So I referred to this book. They translated in English as a kid's book. What is that? That's incredible. It's a very, very deep book. It's a very, very deep book. It's a very complicated book. They translated it in English now.
To be honest with you, Rabbi, I'm putting in like 10 hours of study, almost every day. Lectures, tutorials. I've kind of formed my own little yeshiva school here, I write down all the Jewish names and then all the abbreviations into English. So I've got a really good handle on what I'm reading. To be honest with you, I find books like this fairly easy to read. I mean, I know that it was said that it's difficult to understand, but
well, it depends. It depends. But again, you're reading in English, so I don't know what the English is. I'm asking the English translation. It changes it a lot. That's not what I'm asking.
Yeah, no, it's English translation. But the thing is, I can't get the answers on Shabbat.org. It won't give me the answers, and obviously, I don't know if I can get the answers on Google. But really, the second question would be sort of is part of Mashiach ben Yosef is part of his the first initial plan. Is it to kind of get rid of the idolic worship in Israel, basically?
Well, yeah, I mean, for those who don't know what Stephen's referring to, and again, there is a concept of Mashiach ben Yosef, of which is a precursor to when the Mashiach comes, a sage that is sort of leading in the wars that precede the time of Mashiach ben David, from the tribe of Yosef. Yosef and Judah were the two main tribes, and they each have this quality that they have to bring in as the leaders of the Jewish people. Mashiach ben Yosef is a concept that talks about this precursor to when the Mashiach comes. Now, according to some, because this is it's when I say it's hard, I mean it's hard. It's brought in very in many different opaque references throughout the original sources. The book that you may be quoting there may be the Vilna Gaon's book called Atur, which he discusses it more in detail. There he really talks about the idea of it also turning into a process of a movement. And I don't know if it's the same book that you have there, but the Vilna Gaon there talks about it as the idea that, the state of Israel, the forming of the state of Israel was a politically politically loaded issue in the Jewish world. Why? Because the Jews knew there's a time that they're going to start going back to Israel. The Vilna Gaon was a great rabbi in the early 1800s. And I mentioned to you a few weeks ago, he started to walk to Israel from Lithuania. He started walking there 2 times in his life. And both times he saw that God stopped him along the way and he was not able to go. He realized it was not meant for him. He turned back. But he sent his students there. And the students went to the land of Israel. And now, so the process of reestablishing Israel from the exile was a process the rabbis were taking. There was a group in the mid 1800s called the Chovevei Tzion. The Chovevei Tzion were the lovers of Zion, and that was a rabbinically led group also in the 1880s. And that was also a religious group that they were sending people to go live in Israel to start resettling it. When in the late 1800s, when the Dreyfus trials happened, there's an assimilated Jew named Theodor Herzl who hears about this Dreyfus trials, and he's already a journalist in Austria, and he decides that we're trying to go and to, the Jews trying to live in the lands of the nations, and it's not working out. And he decides that the Jews need their own nation. Now, Theodor Herzl was an ignoramus; he didn't know anything about Judaism, and he espoused certain ideas. So, for example, he said the reason why the Jews are hated is because they don't have their own country. But if they had their own country, and they had their own army, and they had their own flag, and their own language, and all these things, then everyone would accept them as in the family of nations. I don't think there's a philosophy that's been more clearly disproven in such a short period of time. Today it's like, why do we hate the Jews? We don't hate them because we hate them because of Zionism. So Theodor Herzl's ideas were not right. If Theodor Herzl was willing to take Uganda, they offered them Uganda to the Jews. He was willing to take it. He wanted the language of Israel to be French. And what happened was, but Theodor Herzl in the first Zionist convention in, I think it was 1905, he started getting the secular Jews in different places to be interested in the Zionist movement. And what happened is they sort of like took over the process of the return to Zion, and the Zionist movement then in the early 1900s, in the Second Zionist Convention, there was a disagreement amongst the religious people. Some said we can't deal with these people because their vision is not our vision of Israel at all. And there was a group called the Agudas Yisrael, so we're not dealing with them, and they separated from the early Zionist movement. There's another group of religious Jews called the Mizrahi that said, no, we have to work with them because they have connections. We'll work with them. Be that as it may, what happened was Jews started coming more and more, and the movement now, which was originally a solely religious movement, now had elements of a non-religious movement. Now that was very disturbing to the religious people. Not that the Jews were coming, that wasn't the disturbing part, but what happened was when Israel was first going to declare independence. So what happened was it was Friday afternoon before the Sabbath, and they wanted to declare independence, but they couldn't because nobody could agree what to write. Because the secularists said, well, we don't believe in God. Where are these secularists? They were Bolsheviks, they were communists, whatever they were. The religious Jews said, this is the culmination of 2,000 years to return. So David Ben Gurion, who was a very big pragmatist, he wrote in the text, the Rock of Zion. We thank the Rock of Zion, something like that. The Tzur Yisrael. So the religious said that's a phrase for God. The secularists said, oh, that's us. We're the rock. We're strong, whatever it was. So that whole process, so when you look at it from a religious perspective, it's kind of bizarre that so much of the country was physically built by people that really had no connection to a religious process. But that's what the Vilna Gaon talks about is the deeper idea here, is that the concept of this precursor to Mashiach, the precursor to the Messiah coming, which is the concept you referred to, Moshe ben Yosef, that concept is the concept that leads into it, that even leads into it in ways that in a hidden way, God is bringing us back. And we talked about in the book of Nehemiah, it wasn't the miracles of the first entry into Israel. Here, it's even more stranger because some of the people building it are not even, religious Jews. They have their own agendas, which really, by the way, is a central issue in Israel as a problem, because the people who came here who weren't religious in 1947, 48, so they said, okay, we have to be there because we have no country. But their children and grandchildren, if they're not religious, they say, why am I here? They don't know why they're here. Only if you're religious, you understand, well, this is part of your ultimate mission. So that process is a process that God moves the world, and that's part of this deep process of removing the evil, and that's why the return to Zion, according to most opinions of the sages, is the beginning of the revelation of the times of Mashiach. Seems to be pretty clear. But that's the other answer I'm giving you, Stephen, which is that is part of that process that leads to it, and that's what the Vilna Gaon is referring to as part of the way the idea of Mashiach ben Yosef is. And I'll say it's not a person, but it's also a process that leads to removing the evil in the world through all the machinations, the challenges, the wars, all the things that are unfolding right now is part of this process. We're literally living in a world right now, and that's why you got to keep your eye on the ball, because I don't know what's going to be with Iran. I don't know. Certain American governments are very keen to give them a lot of money and help them make a bomb. But again, do I think that that's going to change the course of history? No, because the course of history is where it's going to go. Now, these are all part of these processes that will eventually lead the world to a point of clarity. But in that process, it's very, very messy. And that's what it means. Mashiach ben Yosef will fight these wars. This is a process, and it's going to continue. And it's going to continue until Mashiach ben David comes, and we're going to see, okay, so the lies of the world have been removed.
But part of the redemption process, from what I'm learning, is the circles that we're creating, the circles of truth, by sanctifying Hashem's name in the here and now, between me,
Right.
between you.
For
We're doing our bit.
For sure.
But the thing is, when Mashiach ben Yosef is on the scene, I understand his attributes are. I understand some of his attributes, but like you said, will that kind of, like, everybody doesn't like the truth, especially more so the Christians and the Muslims. Like, I can see the way that the Hashem's kind of getting ready with Zechariah 8:23, where they're going to have to come to the Jewish people for answers. But the question really I've got, which is quite integral, is will he dismantle Islam and Christianity in front of the nations? I mean, is he going to? Are people going to realize that Zechariah 8:23 will come into effect? They're going to turn to the Jews and say, right, now we need to come to you? Or is that part of Mashiach Ben David?
Ben David. So,
yeah,
I don't have I mean, I could say what I think theoretically, but I don't think that point I've ever seen that point brought as clearly, because it could really be either one. In other words, in one way, it could be Mashiach ben Yosef who does the wars before. But the idea in the end where everyone admits to truth is only in the time of Mashiach ben David. That's because Mashiach ben Yosef, they're fighting against him. So that's not the time where everyone has come to clarity. So the clarity where everyone sees the Torah is true is only from Mashiach ben David. Mashiach ben Yosef, that process is a process that's a challenging process, but it doesn't say, I haven't seen any place to say that specifically that will cause it. My logic would be it's Mashiach ben David that would cause that would be the admission of the whole world to truth, because in terms of the times of Mashiach ben Yosef, that whole process, just look at today. And I said to you before, the process of coming to the land of Israel is part of this process. How many people have embraced it, and how many people are fighting it? Just look at that. I mean, the Catholic Church couldn't acknowledge the state of Israel until 1967, because they had one prophecy that the Jews would never return to the land. So they couldn't go and say it. So then the evangelicals changed their tune, and then this and that. Everyone makes up how they try to deal with the reality. But so many people, most people, instead of saying, wait a minute, let's just think about this a second. Let's think about how many nations do we know that have been scattered throughout the entire world that have then been brought back to their country? How many nations? Well, only one. And here's the craziest part. It's all predicted in the Torah.
Yeah.
So that, should put off alarm bells in most honest people's minds to say, wait a minute, I'm reading this book of Deuteronomy, reading the word. It says you'll be scattered to the four corners of the land and you'll be brought back. And it says you'll be persecuted and all these things, you'll come back to your land. And that's never happened in history, much less been told it's going to happen. No one's had that, Italian Americans, Italian Americans, do they go back to see their uncles sometime? Maybe, but they're not returning to Italy. They're Italian Americans, So this has never happened. So my point is to you, Stephen, is that you see by the fact that the response of the world is not a statement of, ooh, maybe I should really rethink my philosophy, but rather it's to double down or to alter it in some way, as some Christian groups have done, and how they want to respond to Israel coming to existence, and then it's going to be this and that. So changing the philosophy from what the Catholic Church said that it'll never happen, to saying, well, okay, it can happen. But instead of people being frank and honest, and saying, wait a minute, this has been predicted, this is exactly happening, this is real. So that implies to me that people will not be able to really, on the whole, see clarity until Mashiach ben David comes, because they're fighting the process tooth and nail.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Okay, what else? We have other questions, ideas, comments, thoughts?
Rabbi, I read an article just in the last couple of days about Elul. And the rabbi that wrote the article, his first sentence was, "I can't go back to Las Vegas." And I'm thinking, oh my, what did he do in Las Vegas that he's banned, that he can't go back? But the idea is, he said, I can't go back to Las Vegas because I've never been to Las Vegas. So you can't go back to a place you've never been. And then he went on to put a different level on repentance, that it's not just changing behavior, but it's the soul going back to where it has been. And by going back to where it has been, the changes in behavior will happen. And I thought that was an interesting idea how to put on it. The soul is going back to where it has been.
Right. And I always point that out. The idea of tshuva is not the English word repentance. That's not the word. That's not the word. The word tshuva is to return. So when you return, and this is very crucial, a person has to return to the source. That is returning. You're returning to your source, returning to God, returning to your true self, which comes from God, which you are. That's all that is real and existing. So that's really, really important, right? People have a wrong idea of repentance. Now, again, it doesn't mean it could all be floaty and I'm going to return. It means you got to fix up what you did wrong. You got to apologize to people you hurt. You got to undo the damage. You got to change your ways. But the root of it is exactly that. The root of it is the idea of returning to the source, to your source. And that's not different. I mean, it is different than obviously returning to God, and turning to yourself is not the same, but in one way it is the same, in the sense that yourself is an emanation from God, that you have existence. And so your true self, the deepest part of you, has to have that place in itself where it wants goodness. It's just that people are covered up with so much junk that they don't recognize it, and some people it's so pervasive they can't get back. But you're right, it's all about getting back to the source of what a person is. That's what it is. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to end a little bit early today because I just got a lot of stuff tomorrow. I got to give a class in Arcola, but just to add what Sandy just said at this point, just to understand also, I think I mentioned to you last week also, you have to remember the on the same concept that Sandy just brought up, the astrological sign of Elul is Virgo, is Virgin, which means that it is the time to restart a relationship. That's what it means. You have to believe that you could start again. You got to believe that like we're all stuck in habits. It's the most fascinating thing. It's really very deep, but it's fascinating. We have a prayer we say every day, It says God renews creation every moment. And, until quantum physics, the sages understood what that meant, but no one else did. Because in quantum physics, when they look at subatomic particles, they realize they're popping in and out of existence. Existence is not really solid. It's not. It just seems to pop in and out. I don't want to get too much into the science of it, but if you look, you'll see that basically, if you saw an atom under a microscope in the full sense, it would be, the example they give is like a giant football stadium with a pearl in the middle and flies flying around the outside of the stadium. That is the distance proportionally between the subatomic nucleus and the electrons. That means there's nothing there. That means that things are not solid that look solid. You should be able to, in quantum physics, put your hand through, your hand should go through anything because your hand's not even there. Not the space is. So they call that a wave pattern, and somehow it creates some reality. But when you understand what's happening is that God renews creation. What does that do for you? It means that we all believe we are this way. Why? Because I was this way yesterday, and I was the way the day before. But if creation is being renewed at every second, then you need to be able to take the position that, wait a minute, so I really can be new. I can have this idea of Elul, of restarting a relationship with God. And I know I did some bad things. I know I've been messed up. I know I had these problems. But I can start new. The reason why I don't is because I'm stuck in the idea that this is what I was yesterday. I must be this today. That's not true. It's just not true scientifically. So this month of Elul is the month where a person has to get ready as they're coming to Rosh Hashanah. And they're doing tshuva and they're fixing up, they're returning. One of the crucial things to remember first is that there's a new relationship. It's the end of the year. And the end of the year, you fall into bad habits and you're in patterns and you feel I can't get out of it. And then you say to yourself, no, God gave me a special time where I could actually restart how I'm going to be. And the limitation is we put on ourselves. It's not real. So that should be our concept. Our concept is we should figure out. And one of the ways you do this, by the way, which is very important, is to picture your ideal self. Because what happens is that we're always stuck in what we have been and where we have failed. But you want to have the picture of where you want to be to know, oh, that's where I'm going. And the key, like Sandy is saying, is you're not going to some place that you weren't. You're going to really what you always were. You just didn't know it. That's the beauty of the tshuva, returning. So it's an ideal, but it's an ideal that you're conjuring up in your head because you realize that ideal was always the ideal of who you really are.
Wow, brilliant.
Okay, everybody. All right, wonderful. Have a great week, and we will see you guys next week.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Ingber.
Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm actually I booked. I'm doing a concert next week. I'm sorry. I have to cancel this week. Also, I'm in Israel now, and people asking me to do stuff, so I'm doing a concert next week. But Rod, we're putting together the Texas thing. We'll do a concert in Texas. Hopefully, my new album will be out by then, so we'll have some good new music and some good new teaching, God willing.
Rod, you're on mute. Well, thank you so much, Rabbi Ingber, and we wish you well in Israel and have a lot of joy. Thank you so much for today's class, and we look forward to seeing you 2 weeks from today, tentatively.
God willing, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
God willing. Good. Great learning today, guys. It was a wonderful
Thanks
class.
Thanks so much.
See you later. Shalom, shalom.
Now, folks, I've got oh, there goes that meeting. Never mind. I was going to say in about 2 hours from now, I've got a open Zoom meeting with Rabbi Moshe Shulman out of Brooklyn, New York, who's doing a Rosh Hashanah and the Noahides He's really hoping for a good interactive. If anybody wants that link, feel free to message me, and I will make sure you get that direct copy. It's plastered all over Facebook. But that's going to be our Working Together series for today. Rabbi Ingber's got a concert to do next week. He plays a wonderful guitar. We've broadcast him playing for us on one of the festivals. I remember one night he actually opened up his house and was playing an entire session for us. It was great. But we will be back in 2 weeks with more of our Working Together series. So till then, have a wonderful, wonderful day, everybody. Bye for now.